like confessions untold. I run wild, I run wild, I run wild.
Cruz Bromack and Chase Auckland. Spankham leads the cup field. The fixer can't get him. Cruz Bromack, Chase Auckland late. 100 to go. Spankham, Cruz Bromack the outside. Spankham, Cruz Bromack and Blair Orange win the New Zealand Cup.
And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Woodland Start, of course, Bettor's Delight, American Ideal, Sweet Lou, Pegasus Spur, What the Hill, goes on and on and on. A bit like Cup Week did, Michael Guerin. Some amazing scenes there by our team on track and reliving some of those moments tonight. Should be pretty cool fun. Evening to you.
Yeah, nice to see you again, brother. How's your Cup Week hangover, everybody? I'm not just talking about the socialising off the track and on the track, but Greg, it's an information hangover. You take in so much information that by Sunday morning you're like, wow, what happened? And congratulations, not just to Addington, to all three clubs involved. It's a massive deal for Christchurch. As you know, it's a city. I was staying in the city for several days and it brings so much to the economy, so much buzz. It's a great way to launch summer. I thought it was a wonderful carnival, and we're about to see the figures, Greg, and I think on the flip side, on the business side, the TAB, or RETA as it's called these days, did a great job with the promotions, and I think that aided in getting some great turnover figures. Now, you know more about turnover figures than I do, but this is approaching $10 million, and surely that's the sort of holy grail for turnovers for Addington for the week.
Yeah, it is, Michael. Getting over $6 million on Cup Day is the goal, if you like, and to be able to achieve that back-to-back and get close to 10 million, remarkable. Show day turnover, the KPC, which was held off course this year as opposed to on, basically they were down 350,000 on course, but up 350 off, so that extrapolated out to be exactly the same scenario there. So huge turnover. I think there's some work to be done there with regard to getting some regional-based horses, more of them from, say, Auckland, even Southland up. But on what they had to work with, I thought those figures were absolutely outstanding. The weather played its part, and there were storylines around each of the Group 1 wins that perhaps, at least a couple of them, we weren't expecting.
What we've seen is, and we'll get to it later on, we'll play a little game, so stick with us on the box seat tonight. We're going to play a game. You'll like it. But it's a game that's going to make you some money, because what we've seen now is different winners of virtually all the major races, and Blair Orange was the one constant. He won the two big Group 1s. But the gap between horse 1 and horse 6 or 8 or 10 is a lot smaller than usual. And that's had a real benefit, Greg, and that's in how many Australians confirmed to come to the Inter-Dominions, because the next show starts pretty quickly. We're off next Friday for the Inter-Doms. And had Lazarus been here and won the Cup by 8, you might have got one Australian, maybe 2. He's not here. And you've got 8 coming for the Inter-Dominion. So it's not going to be a wow Lazarus, wow Winks type Inter-Dominion. It's going to be a, hey, this is really interesting. There's lots of variables in play. And one of those variables is the removal of Spankham last night. So we'll go back, but stick with us because we have a whole bunch of information about what's going to happen next for harness racing fans.
Let's go to the 116th running of the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup, and at the concluding stages with Matt Cross as the eventual winner, gets off the markers around the final bend and chases down the favourite Spankham.
Fixer can't get him. Cruz Bromack, Chase Auckland late. 100 to go. Spankham, Cruz Bromack the outside. Spankham, Cruz Bromack and Blair Orange win the New Zealand Cup. It's Cruz Bromack and he loved it. Second in, Spankham took my eyes off third. They were coming from everywhere.
Yeah, win 22 in his career, took his total stakes up over $1 million, Michael. He won the free-for-all last year. Look, he's always been a very, very good horse. Of course, developed here in New Zealand by Mark Jones, and as we heard from the Big Fish last week, Blair Orange tried to qualify him. He didn't even qualify him at one of those early trials, but he just got a beautiful run. He got a really good run last year, but he sort of got a bit rough around the final bend, and Mark had to balance him up, and he wasn't able to chase down the other three. But once Blair got him in a straight line here, spank him, we thought he might be slightly vulnerable if he didn't get a trail, and that was Mark's words throughout the build-up to the race, and that's what proved in the end. Yes, he beat the others just as easily, but Cruz Bromac was just too fast for him.
I think the time helped. I think the fact that we didn't have a really attacking, hard, staying horse in the race, and if that horse was the fixer, he may have been just below his best fitness-wise. So I think a 353 Cup might have seen many of these out, but it was a 357 Cup, and that aided Cruz Bromac. This is a rarity for me, and I've covered quite a few New Zealand Cups. This is the first time I can ever remember the winning driver being the story of the race as opposed to the horse. Now that's twofold. Blair Orange is an outstanding driver, a very popular bloke, and he's had a very big last couple of years winning the premierships. And secondly, Cruz Bromac isn't a champion. Now that's fine. Not all races are won by champions. And he's a horse who's been beaten plenty of times. He's come across from Australia. There we see owner Danny Zavazatos. And he's won this race with the disadvantage of not being here for the whole build-up. So he's done a great job. No argument he was the best horse in the race on the day. But when I left there last Tuesday night, Greg, and when I got up on Wednesday morning and discussed the Cup with people, I've never been to a Cup where more people said, I was glad to see Blair win, and very, very few people use the words Cruz Bromac. That's no disrespect to Cruz Bromac. It was just the type of horse he is and the type of race it turned out to be, and the esteem and popularity of Blair in the game. And hey, he's been knocking around for 20 odd years at this. So you are more likely to have that feel good toward him than a horse who spends a bit of time backwards and forwards across the Tasman. And mentioning the fact the horse spends some time across the Tasman, young Amanda Grieve, who's only a young lady training horses, she was training this horse to 3 or 4 weeks ago, and she deserves a percentage also of the credit for this New Zealand Cup victory.
Yeah, definitely, Michael. His 11th drive in the race. Of course, he had placings with Highview Tommy and Titan Banner, so to be able to achieve it, you could see how much it meant to him, having the family there as well. But doing it in the colours of Mark Purdon and Natalie Rasmussen, just made it extra special for him because he'd spent so much of his working life hanging out at the All-Stars barn.
Agreed. You get very close to those people, and I think Mark enjoyed it, as did Natalie, almost as much as if he won it himself. Obviously, he would have liked to have won it himself.
Okay, question for you, Michael. If Classy Brigade had stayed the fence, or the gap that he was going for hadn't closed when Chase Auckland came so quickly, would Classy Brigade have won the Cup?
No, I don't think so. I spoke to John Dunn about that last Wednesday. He reckons he would have got a lot closer, but I don't think he's a pull-out zing type horse. He's more of a rolling stay. I can't say that for sure. I don't know, but you asked my opinion. My opinion is no. Start of the race was really interesting because, bizarrely, the horse who missed away in the Kaikoura Cup just 8 days earlier is the horse who made a fly, and that was half the winning of the race for Cruz Bromac, as he did last year in the false start of the race. But just goes to show you that trying to predict standing start manners, and this was a very good standing start.
In saying that, we got the information prior to the start of the day that they were going to stand the back a couple of lengths and walk forward. As long as nobody took the mickey, then it would be fine. That was mature, and it's been a long time coming, right?
Oh, I had a talk.
That's Nandolo, by the way.
To one of the stewards about it, and I think the attitude is changing. This animosity between the steward, starter, drivers in Canterbury doesn't work. You're all working for the same industry. Enough's enough. And I think they're seeing that now. So that's good. That's a benefit for the industry. But still, trying to predict a horse who galloped a week earlier at Kaikoura would step away so well, impossible to predict. It did. That was probably the winning of the race, because you put him 3 back on the outside, I don't think he wins. And say that, as I said, he come from Victoria. He has had disadvantages that other horses in this race haven't had, or most of them. I've never seen him as a top stayer. I've always felt he was a better sprinter. Ironically, he went out to get beaten in the free-for-all. We're going to show you a bit later. So it was a wonderful story. You sort of almost lose in the storylines the fact that the All-Stars trained another winner, but that feels almost normal.
Chase Auckland, very good.
Very, very good. He was probably the horse, along with Cruz Bromac, who sold themselves during the week to a higher level than we're used to seeing him at. And there was a couple there who went backwards. And
the fixer
was the obvious one, through no fault.
I'll tell you who was
and
also...
so did Classy Brigade.
Yep.
Classy Brigade was really good.
And Henry Hubert was good, mate, because he had no preparation.
Yeah.
Zero. He's been beaten 2.5 lengths.
And again, that adds to the Inter-Dominion, which is just around the corner. But Spankham, I thought, had his chance to win. I don't think he's a true 2-miler. I think everybody knew that, and we thought we might get away with it.
He nearly did.
But he nearly did. You're right. We could have be a vastly different conversation. And obviously, he's now being found to have had an injury, which I doubt was affecting him during the Cup, but you don't know.
No.
And he's now out of the Inter-Dominions, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But I don't think it'll go down as a vintage Cup, but I think it'll go down as a very popular result. And it's left a lot of questions about what's going to happen in this next month heading up to December the 14th.
All right, 3 days later, we had the Woodlands New Zealand free-for-all, and this was the 112th running of this. Classy Brigade in front. Things changed at the start. We'll look more at that in a moment, but let's get Matt Cross to bring him home.
Rolls as he takes it now. It's Classy Brigade leading Spankham. Chase Auckland up the lane. Then came the fixer. Classy Brigade. He's coming now. Chase Auckland. Addington erupts. Chase Auckland wins. Beats Classy Brigade. 30 the Cruise Bromac horse Spankham. Then came the fixer.
So Chase Auckland spoke to Tim Williams prior to that race, and he thought he might end up 3 back the fence, which is where Cruise Bromac ended up, and he didn't get a run. As it turned out, he ended up in the trail, which was the perfect spot for him, and the same spot, Michael, we had when he won the Sires a couple of years earlier.
It's a funny situation. There was quite a big move for the horse late with the bookies and on Betfair, because he had run the really good sectionals at the back end of the New Zealand Cup, and he was really good at the New Zealand Cup. But ironically, that move was false money, because he would have ended up 3 deep on the inside and couldn't have won the race had Cruise Bromac crossed to the start. So he's got the beautiful run, and you're still going to win, and he's had a magic week. He's done a really good job in 2 big, serious races. But had Cruise Bromac, and he was going to cross Classy Brigade, had he not crossfired and not crossed him and galloped, this would have been a different result. That's no pot on Chase Auckland. You can only win, and he's actually won pretty well at the line going away. But the dynamic of the race changed enormously once Cruise Bromac galloped, because quite simply this horse couldn't have won from 3 back on the inside.
No, tough performance from Classy Brigade in front, given every chance by John Dunn. It was one of those weeks for Robert and John, wasn't it? So near, but yet so far, and of course the trouble with Sunday Sun as well, so it wasn't ideal, but they still won their share, and they were in just about every fight, weren't they?
And Classy Brigade staying in front, even though he wouldn't have held it had Cruise Bromac not galloped, also gives them some fuel for the fight in the Inter-Dominions. They can go to the Inter-Dominions now and say, if we're going to lead in this race, you're not getting the lead. And that's going to be a crucial component to this Inter-Dominion. Is it's not going to be a just hand up to a Lazarus of a couple of years ago, or a Spankham or whoever, and the All-Stars just running away and winning. Now, there was that concern 3 months ago, 6 months ago, that was going to be the series. I remember talking to some Australians 3 months ago, oh, none of them will come, fearmonger, not going to come. There's 8 of them coming. And those 8 are horses who will not be handing up the majority of the time. So we've got a live series. Let's go through a couple of horses. I want to get your opinion on some.
Yep.
So Chase Auckland's obviously had a banner week, and Cruise Bromac's had a huge week. Classy Brigade next level. Spankham, so the news comes out last night. Spankham has an injury to a fetlock. He is out for the summer, gone from this race's Miracle Mile.
So I'm not going to knock it. Because
No, there's no knock on him, and he had...
Yep.
I didn't think the 2 miles was his go, and I thought he was okay in the free-for-all Sitting Park. Where's the fixer at?
Well, he clearly lacked preparation, and that was Natalie's words post-race as well. She thought he was there, but he got a similar run to he did last year. Yes, he worked a little bit harder to get the lead, but he should have been able to get at least on parallel or on par with Spankham, I would have thought. And his feet issues are ongoing. There's no question about that, because he, when we look at that free-for-all run, sat in the 1-1 and couldn't run past a horse.
Yep.
Now, that's not the fixer. He's not just a lead trail horse. He's actually got really high speed.
Well, he won the Ballarat Cup last year.
He's got really good speed. So,
Henry Hubert, obviously, you've been a fan of.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about him at Alexandra Park, though.
He's coming
It
north.
hasn't been his go in the past, though. He raced in the 4-year-old races last year.
Okay.
And was just okay, I thought.
So when they hit the line in the Cup, there was one bunch at the front, and they were quite tightly bunched together. Then there was another bunch at the back.
Nandolo good, because he's new to it.
But
only
heading
won
to
6
Geraldine
races.
Cup this week,
Yep.
so
and he can possibly
he
win
won't
there.
be coming to Auckland? I wouldn't think so.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
And he could go in a race like the Green Mile as well.
One of your old mates has lost some friends.
AG's White Sox. Don't know what to say, mate.
That's all you've got?
Well,
Good chat. That was
yeah,
good.
I just don't know what to say, mate, because he's gone from a horse that was a factor in any Group 1 he lined up in, including earlier in the year. He's run second, of course, to Turn It Up in an Easter Cup, and he's canning after 100 metres. He galloped on the bend in the free-for-all. I don't know what to say.
Okay, so here's what happens on the back end of that. So Spankum's out, which is really unfortunate, long-time favourite, and comes out last night. Obviously, Mark and Nathalie have sat down and decided who's going, and they have 6 going to the series, so that's going to be the Fixer, another Masterpiece, Cruise Bromac, Chase Auckland, Ultimate Sniper, and
one more.
Ashley Locats. So they're going. There's 8 Australians coming, so there's your 14.
Yep.
Robert Dunn's taking 2, so there's 16.
Steve Telfer?
Steve Telfer's got 3, and Barry Purdon's got 3, but this comes with a caveat. Boulevard will only start on the series if there's 3 heats.
Right.
Now we're getting to numbers which are around about 22, 24. Now they can start 12 in the heats. I've spoken to the Auckland Trotting Club this week. Now the final payments are on Friday morning, 11 o'clock. If you're watching this, don't forget to pay up for your horse if you want to go. To be honest, you probably haven't got a horse to go. No need to remember that part. If they get to 24, I think they'll start 2 heats of 12. If they got to 27, which I don't see happening as we see the Australians there, we'll talk about the Trotters later. If they got to 27, I think, Greg, they would go with 3 heats of 9.
Yep.
But I don't think they'll get to 27 because apart from the list I just gave you, Star Galleria will join the party. He had a vet examination on Monday. He passed that. They're happy with him. The epiglottis has not been playing up. That hasn't been the reason for his defeats. I don't see them getting to 27. So I see them getting to 24, 25-ish maybe. So then they go with 2 pacing heats of 12. And with Barry Purdon having told me a Ball of Art type horse might drop out, then you might pretty quickly get to bang on 24.
Yep.
So that's where the Inter-Dominion stand, and then the barrier draws will be next Monday heading into Friday. Then we go Friday, Tuesday, Friday. Qualify for the final, 12 finalists for $500,000 the following Saturday on the 14th. Raises the question, all those things in the mix, the Australians coming, who do you want to be on for the Inter-Dominion right now?
You asked me that on Friday, last Friday, show day, and I said Cruise Bromac, and I'm happy to stay with him. Right-handed's no problem for him. On-speed horse.
Who drives them?
Good question. Do they stay with the incumbent, who's Blair Orange, who's won a cup and run 3rd in a free-for-all, or with Spankum coming out now, does Mark Purdon therefore go back on him? Well,
here's what happens. If we're thinking, and I'm thinking this is right, 2 heats, 3 All-Stars per heat.
Yep.
Mark and Lee drive 1 each. And then you presume Tim Williams stays with Chase Auckland.
Yep.
So Blair Orange will be at the series to drive Habibi Inter, obviously. So I'm not sure if he'll stay with Cruise Bromac. You would suggest,
I don't know.
You would suggest they might qualify 4 or 5 for the final, and then everybody comes into play. The one horse we haven't touched on from those videos is Ultimate Sniper.
Well, let's have a look at him.
Yeah, he came out, and this is what he did on Cup Day. He was brutal. He was the horse you hoped he was going to be, and I doubted that sometimes this spring that he was going to turn into this horse. But it doesn't look graphic, this win. What you're not seeing here is the fact he sat park for the majority of the race, and he's gone 3-6 for the 2,600 metres.
Well, down the back straight is where she just poured the pressure on, and well, that was the winning of the race because 888 was just 1 spot further back, and that was Natalie's plan. 0.8 of a second inside the race record set by Massini, who was also driven by Natalie back in 2014, and he was awesome. He was brutal, and if he brings that form to Alexandra Park, where he's already been a Group 1 winner, then he can be a massive factor in the series.
Yeah, and that would have been good enough to go close to winning the free-for-all, but maybe the one issue, and I'm not saying it's going to be, but it might be, for Ultimate Sniper is the best version of him is when he can rough and tumble and lead or sit parked, but I'm not sure he's got the gate speed of the majority of the horses in the series now. These Australians, plus the Cruise Bromacs, plus the Chase Aucklands, there's going to be a lot of horses running on the speed. It's going to be an awfully hard series to sit parked.
Okay, who do you want to be on?
Bizarrely, Bling It On.
Right.
I'm not saying he'll win this series, but I think he's the best odds of the horses available. I told you we're going to play a game. Here's the game. We're going to give a name to Greg, and he's going to give you an answer. Stick with me because it could make you some money in the next 3 weeks.
Could also take a very long time.
Canterbury Classic. Who won the Canterbury Classic?
Spankham.
Who won the Hannah Memorial?
Did Chase Auckland go? Spankham won that too, yeah.
Who won the Ashburton Flying Stakes?
Spankham.
Kaikoura Cup.
The leader was Classy Brigade.
Stick with us. New Zealand Trotting Cup, just saw that one. Should be pretty easy.
Yep, Cruise Bromac.
And who won the Free for All?
Chase Auckland.
Okay. What happened in all those races?
The winner, at some point, the majority of them led, but was on the markers.
Winners on the marker pegs. Let's go back through the season. Last year, Miracle Mile winner led. This year, early. Only race in Australia that matters this year in any way, shape or form.
Taylor Mile Messenger.
Victoria Cup, three markers. Horse in the trail ran second. They're so even, these horses. Horses can't work and win these races. The only horse to work and sit parked in a race all season of any importance anywhere in Australasia and win was Chase Auckland in the Methven Cup. Now, that was a handicap race.
On the grass.
On the grass. Totally different thing, still a massive performance. What we're seeing is that these horses are so even. Being on the marker pegs is just the key to winning.
And more so at Alexandra Park
100%.
because of the sharpness of the last bend and the speed they go
The most
there.
important marker pegs track in Australasia for major racing. So gate speed's going to be crucial because we've seen the huge body of evidence. Because don't forget last year's Hunter Cup, last year's Inter-Dominion, Tiger Tara led and won these races. Last year's New Zealand Cup, the fixer in the trail. It's just irrefutable evidence that being on the marker pegs is going to win you at least 90% of major races.
Okay, question for you. Mark Purdon last Cup week, how many winners? Can you remember off the top of your head? He had 13 drives.
Last year?
Last year, I'll tell you. He had
7 or 8.
He had 7. Yep, 7 wins. This year, none from 10. Is he out of form? No, he's not.
He's gone.
he's got washed up, mate. He's washed up.
Think about that next week when the Inter-Dominions come around, because you're going to want to back an ultimate sniper. You're going to want to back something somewhere. If it's not going to be on the marker pegs, think about it and don't do it. It's just going to be crucial for these series getting on the marker pegs, because, Greg, the difference between the best horse in the series, and I don't know who that is, and the 8th horse in the series might be a length. The difference will probably be being on the marker pegs.
That's the pacing side of things wrapped up from Cup Week. Stick with us. When we come back, it is the Trotters that we'll focus on.
Got good drink and good food, with some good friends and good news. So today I'm in a good mood. Got good drink and good food, with some good friends and good news. So today I'm in a good mood. Hey, drinks at the flat, that's a prequel. Hey, blowing loud till it's legal. Hey, me and the tribe looking like a lookbook. You and your crew look like the Beatles. Like who else mixed that moldy with some raps and with some melody? Yeah. My girl just wanna chill and she want that melody.
Great vision of Cup Week at Addington Raceway. Time for us to have a look at the Trotters, and of course the big one is the 3,200 metre event on show day, and it is the Park Canterbury Dominion, and it looked like this over the last 250 metres. Spread out, they were running time, but one horse bolted away from them.
3 lengths clear, Tough Monarch, then came Mark Cooler, but this is a total domination of Blair Orange, Paul Nairn and Habibi Inter. What a week, 2 Group 1s and stunning. Habibi Inter has smashed them. Second in, Tough Monarch, third to go by was Monty Python.
So he was brilliant, of course, a Group 1 winner at 4 in the Harness Duels, a winner of the DG Jones Memorial at Motukarara, of course. He won at Kaikoura. The work was kept up to him. He missed the free-for-all on Tuesday, and that man, Paul Nairn, did it again for the third time in the great race.
He's a great trainer, and he did it the hard way. They went to Kaikoura, and he said after the race, I've been keeping the work up to the horse, which he's a big round stallion. He's a big chunk of a horse. I reckon Paul's worked him hard every second day. Not hard, but hard enough to open his lungs up, and he just was the fittest horse on the day. I think maybe... I'll tell you the truth, Paul and I are pretty close, and there's been times in the last 18 months where Paul said to me, I'm not sure about him, I'm not sure he's trying that hard, I'm not sure where he's at and all that sort of stuff. A lot of trotters go through that period when they first get to open class. Not many horses do them on bay, but I think Paul's worked him out. Big stallion, let's just keep working. Work him hard, make him concentrate, and he just smashed them, Greg. It's impossible for punters, this is the tricky part, who watch that, to go, is that the same horse that Mark Hall beat by 13 lengths at Ashburton 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it is.
That's really hard to get right in your head, and that goes back to our previous conversation about the paces. The horses in the zone on the day or the night are going to win these races, and the horses who even have half a concern, Mark Hall or Oscar Bonavina having that early gallop around a play. But again, same as the Blair Orange thing in the Cup, anytime Paul Nairn wins a Group 1 race, other trainers go shake his hand because they know he is a very uniquely talented horse trainer.
The sixth driver to do the double. James Bryce, first 1916, Ron Donald 1940, Jack Smolensky, Arapaho and Philemon in the early 70s, Anthony Butt when Flashing Red and Mountbatten I think it was, and then Ricky May with Monkey King and Stylish Monarch in 2010. So joins a really unique club there, does Blair Orange. And it was coincidentally his 11th drive in the race, same as it was in the Trotting Cup only a few days earlier. So
and a double of about 250 to 1, maybe more. So it wasn't like he was on two hot pots and he had to drive them both with a little bit of patience.
Great run, Tough Monarch. Obviously, we'll see his free-for-all in a moment. Very good from him. Monty Python, another placing in a Group 1 3,200 metre event.
I thought that was Majestic Man running third. I thought, oh, Majestic Man's gone good. It was Monty Python.
Yeah.
I couldn't have seen that coming. That's just remarkable. The race did change complexion, like the free-for-all on the same day from an early gallop. I'm not saying Oscar Bonavina would have won because it actually would have been incredibly hard to beat the other horse. But that's
goes to go in between two and they both broke.
I spoke to Mark, he said he went to punch through a gap and then another horse galloped and the wheel came across a little bit enough and he had to check. He wasn't actually hit by the horse, he had to check.
Yep.
And that inexperience came up.
Bordeaux and Woodstone that was.
I've been saying it for the last month. One day Oscar Bonavina is going to burn us all because he's such an urgent little horse and he's got there so quickly. It wasn't his fault, but that was always going to happen in one race. It just picked the absolute worst race for it to happen in.
Okay, so if you're Mark Purdner, you're sitting there now going, wonder if I should have left him in the Indus.
I'm not going to second guess him. He's the best trainer in the country.
No, I'm not asking you to second guess him, but do you...
It's easy to say that, yes, because he didn't have a hard run, in saying that I think they have bigger fish to fry, and it's only 150k.
Yep.
If it was 300k, he'd be in the series, I'm sure of that. But it's still going to be a hard series. It's not going to be a strong series, but with Tough Monarch and McLovin. Now, McLovin got the thumps in that race and dropped out. He worked this morning, Wednesday, here in the north, and he is fine to go. So McLovin is there, and he'll be joined by Big Jack Hammer from Victoria. And some people ridicule the Australians and, our Uncle Sam dropped out in this race and that sort of stuff. They help make those trotting races because we go back to the free-for-all on the first day, Greg, and hard-running, quick-off-the-gate horses. Let's not forget, that's going to be a lot more similar, the free-for-all, to what we see at Alexandra Park than what we saw in the Dominion, standing start 2 miles. And our trotters don't have usually the gate speed of the Australian trotters. All of a sudden, tough Monarchs become a horse with Anthony Butt on. He's going to be awfully hard to catch around Alexandra.
Yeah, and he was in the Commodore, the Airport Commodore New Zealand trotting free-for-all. He dashed away on the bend. Of course, it was the other Aussie, the quasi-Aussie, because, of course, he was developed here in New Zealand by the Leatherby team. Has got very close in the end.
McLovin's after him. Did you bring the Bears back to the inside? It's Tough Monarch. McLovin's coming very quickly. It's the Aussies. Tough Monarch. McLovin. Tough Monarch. McLovin. Tough Monarch. Tough Monarch won the free-for-all. Beat home McLovin. Third in...
I should say the Leatherby Jenkins team because Ray's a big part of that, of course, too. But Tough Monarch was exactly what his name would suggest. He was just tough enough to hold on, but the race was won at the start, and Ricky Elchin there meant a lot to him. This horse hadn't won a Group 1 up until this day, and he finally grabbed one, and that was a great result for them.
Well, also, when he decided to come to this carnival, Oscar Bonavina and Sunday Sun were still in that race. That's a gutsy move. Like, he was $25 or something to come to this carnival. He gets there and wins as a $2.50 chance. Because you can't win when you stay home, that's for sure. And he now comes to Auckland with that gate speed. I'm not sure how he's going to handle right-handed, but the Elchin boys are good horse people. So he's a really key horse, maybe the key horse to the Inter-Dominion, even though he's not my top tip for the race. So raise a question for you, and this is an obvious question. I'm not slagging anybody and saying they've got it wrong, but we saw the horses who dominated the Dominion, Habib Dienta, the favourite for the series, Oscar Bonavina. Had the Dominion been on Friday, Oscar Bonavina misses away or gets checked early or whatever it was and it's out of the race, I've got no doubts he turns up for the free-for-all.
Yeah, sorry, if the Dominion had been on the Tuesday.
Yeah, sorry, Dominion Tuesday and free-for-all Friday. I spoke to Paul Nean, who is an old-school trainer. I said, to BB Inter, you don't want to go to the free-for-all? He said, put it this way, if the New Zealand Trotting Cup was on Friday, would anybody start in the free-for-all on Tuesday? No, they wouldn't.
No.
And that's what we're asking the Trotters to do. When you think about it like that, when Paul said that to me, I thought, yes, man from Snowy River, you have a
You
good
are correct.
and it's the time's come. The time's come to change it. Oscar Bonavina, Sunday Sun, forget about it because he wasn't there. Oscar Bonavina, after missing or having that check early and galloping, would have gone round on the Friday.
Yep.
Had the free-for-all been there.
Yep.
And he didn't.
So what is the reason now that they are retained on the days that they are? Because it used to be, there was a trot race on Tuesday, yes, trotting free-for-all on the Friday, week to the Dominion.
I don't know the reason, but here's the simplest argument. Why wouldn't you change it? These mega days, these big days are awesome. The free-for-all has a significantly smaller crowd. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a different type of day. It's a different feel.
But all of those good horses will be there.
But your best race should be on the best day. I don't...
Yep.
No one loses anything out of doing this, not one person. And I had a conversation with one of my mentors and one of the greats of New Zealand journalism, and Dave Cannon, and he said, look, does it cannibalise the Dominion in importance? I think maybe 20 or 30 years ago those things were things to think about, but...
Not now.
But look at the championships for the gallopers or many of the great galloping carnivals and even some of the harness carnivals, the harness jewels. I don't find that one Group 1 on Harness Jewels Day cannibalises another race. And if that even does potentially happen, then isn't the New Zealand free-for-all being cannibalised by this? Well, as I said, what Paul Dean said to me really rang home. If this was the paces, we wouldn't attempt to do this. Why are we doing it with the Trotters?
Let's move to the McMillan Equine Feeds. Of course, it is the great race for the 3-year-olds pre-Christmas, the Sires Stakes. And, well, one change, he never wins by much. He got a beautiful run this year and he was able to dart through on the passing lane and win again.
One change back to the inside from Italian Lad. Copy that and bad to the bone. One change, burst up the lane, took line up, wide out, copy that. It's one change over copy that and line up. It's one change just. I think one change won it over copy that. 30 the lineup or bad to the bone, then Italian Lad.
So we got a beautiful run. I spoke to Mike Woodlock actually in getting a photograph at AJ Berry's Race Images, and he said, I had a good chat to Natalie about it, and he didn't see the other horses. He was down on the inside and he thought he was just clear and he's going to win. But as we know, his winning margins have been nose, half a head. That's basically it. The upshot of it is, Michael, he's had 8 starts for 7 wins, so he knows how to win.
And of those 7 wins, as you said, 5 of them by half a head or less. Look, he won. Again, I don't mean to, by any way, decry his performance, but put him anywhere else in the race and he probably doesn't win. He did burn a little bit early, and he was the best horse on the day, but Copy That was massive.
Copy That, great. Line-up did plenty of work to get the lead.
If you reversed these placings and Copy That had sat in the trail and won and beaten one change, you would have said, well, how unlucky was one change? Yeah. He stormed home down the outside. Because he was the favourite, he's still the top dog amongst the 3-year-olds, but I think like both the Pacers and the Trotters in open class, there's nobody who would be terrified of taking on one change. There's no one who would go, well,
I think it's great for the 3-year-old.
Of course it is. It's great for the derbies.
I'm not saying he can't win some of those, but he's not just going to win them all.
No, and he keeps winning, which is great. And Look, it's just a very open crop, and I think Lineup's a pretty good horse. So I think there's enough there around a whole bunch of horses to say they could win. Still, they've got to beat him. So he's top dog, but he's there with plenty yapping at his heels.
Okay, that's the 5 Group 1s for us. Big day, though, on the Friday, of course, the Kids Karts New Zealand Cup. And it was a Ford taking it out in the form of Lockie. We'll get Matt Cross to bring it home, and when we come back, have a whole lot more from New Zealand Cup Week.
Lockie Ford and Boost will go on and win the Kids Karts New Zealand Trotting Cup. Lockie Ford in the bike and Boost is one. Beat home Sophie Woodhouse.
Well, as we went to the break there, of course, Lockie Ford took out the Kids Karts New Zealand Cup with Boost. But, Michael, I understand that he had a bit of an accident yesterday, Lockie.
Yep, it was raining in Canterbury and Lockie fell over and bashed his little head in. Nothing serious, I think he lost a tooth or he had a bit of dental work required afterwards, but he got a mouthful of a horse float, I believe. So, Lockie, hope you're feeling better, mate. Well done on your kids' cart last week.
On the Ford camp, there's big news, of course.
Some big news, isn't there? So, Marcoola, who might be the best horse in the trotting series and probably is because Oscar Bonavina's not going, and that's no disrespect to Habibi Inter. The family has decided, because of Clint's obligations with the business and kids' obligations at home, that they are going to send the horse to Barry Purdon, and it won't be we're sending it to him and coming up and mucking around with it ourselves. Barry Purdon will be the trainer of Marcoola from next Monday when the horse flies up. So Cherie Tomlinson will obviously still maintain the drive. And I spoke to Clint, he said, no, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to go out to Barry's and look at the horse and talk to Barry and see how it's going, but it's his horse to train. I'm not sure if that means a change of colours. Interesting to see how the horse cops that. We know he's a great horse, he's a stallion. Being around Barry's property where there's a beautiful track and working with lots of other good horses, I think will be advantageous for the horse. But
do you think he underperformed in the Dominion, or are you of the school of thought that, well, they went 2-1 for the first mile from a stand, they run home in 2-1 obviously because they went 4-2, or do you think Cherie may have just allowed him to run a little bit hard? And I'm not criticising her drive, but do you think that he may have gone a little bit hard?
I think you can only drive horses how they feel.
Well, he obviously felt great because he was rolling
The best
along.
version of him over the long period of time has been when he has been given his head. Last year he was given his head later in the race.
But they only ran home in 30 seconds, Michael. That says
Agreed,
to me...
I had no issues with it because in Ashburton she thrashed them by 12 lengths doing exactly the same thing. And people say it's only a mile
a little
or two.
bit different over a mile, mate.
Look, it may well be, but...
Again, I'm not criticising her. I'm just asking you, as a journalist, do you think she went too hard?
No, I don't. I was more than comfortable with her drive. If I backed the horse, which I didn't, I would have been very happy with that. It didn't go good enough. That's it.
Mate, it nearly went, well, they went 4-2. That's the second fastest ever. Only horse has gone fast as Montbay.
But that doesn't matter because Monty Python ran past it. Now, on no universal planet ever born does Monty Python run past the
It
best
does if you go too hard.
The best version of Mark Gordon. I was comfortable with the drive. Look, a couple of years ago, Clint took it to Cambridge and launched it, won by 12. It's also launched last year, and you could say he went too hard because he hit the lead at the 600. It just polished it. It didn't go good enough. If it had gone good enough, 5 horses wouldn't run past it. So...
Well, there's only 3 horses ran past it.
If they
run fourth, Michael.
If they went...
Michael,
put it
ran
this way,
fourth.
They beat it by 15 lengths.
But it ran fourth,
or 12
not 6.
lengths. But like, if it performs to its Ashburton level, where Habibi enters that far behind it, it still wins. It just didn't go good enough.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about some other trotters. And Bonnie Highlander and Ruthless Kayla, they had a couple of good battles, didn't they? One each it was for the week. Of course, Bonnie Highlander, very good training performance this by Robert Dunn. Got the business done. That's Ruthless Kayla way back in the field. Was luckless and charged home, but Bonnie Highlander didn't have much luck on the second day. We'll look at that in a moment. But gee, she was good here.
She was good enough to go to the Inter-Dominions, and that's crucial. She's one of 4 in the trotting series for Robert and John Dunn, which I presume there'll be 2 heats, so they're going to have to split 2 apiece. Ruthless Kayla, really good. In fact, she's probably gone good enough to go to the Inter-Dominions too if they wanted to go, which they won't. Yeah, I think she's coming into that next bunch. I'm not sure she can win an Inter-Dominion because of the dramatic strength of a horse, of a Mark Cooler, Habibi Inter, and the speed of a Tough Monarch. But adds to the series, and she's going to have a lot of fun over the next couple of months. Very rare we don't have a lot of good open class trotting mares these days, so she might be the best of those, and putting herself in a position, as is Ruthless Kayla, to be in at least the voting for Trotting Mare of the Year.
Yeah,
which
and
is
here was
incredibly valuable.
It is Ruthless Kayla getting a softer run than Bonnie Highlander this time, and she showed that very good speed. And I talked about it on Friday, Michael. She's won upward of 120,000 now, Ruthless Kayla, and she sort of bubbles underneath the radar. Nobody really goes, oh yeah, Ruthless Kayla, she's a really nice trotter, but she has done a great job.
It comes down to strike rate. You know, if she had done the job she had done in 20 starts, you'd go, wow, this is a really good horse. Maybe it's taken her 30, 40 starts, I'm not sure, but probably more. And when they do that, you don't get the buzz about them. But I think she's
had 60 starts.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of starts.
Yep.
So that's the reason. You put that into 20 starts, and she's a wild horse.
Yep.
So that some horses mature at different rates. She can be a factor in a Row Cup or next year's Dominion as a
with that soft sort of run. What about Wild Excuses week? This was outstanding from her by a rock and roll dance out of Smooth Maker. So it's a family that Ronnie Dawes had really good success with. And Gavin Smith, I was concerned this day because it won the back row, and I thought, oh, you're going to be in a power of pain from there. But it opened up early and he was able to punch out, go around, take the lead, and really won comfortably.
We go back to that conversation of 2 minutes ago. Gavin Smith, if he gets beat here, overdrove the horse. Gavin, what were you thinking? You just liberated it. You went too hard down the back straight. But you know what? If they're good enough, they're fit enough, they'll win. And that's what it did. This horse was fit enough to win. So I think we saw a lot of this last week. Horses who were driven aggressively and able to get up on the speed were able to win. I must admit I hadn't had this horse on my radar as a good horse. She's now qualified for the Jewels, absolute certain to get into there, and no reason to think she can't be a factor in the big mares races, albeit Bella Montana and Princess Tiffany are going to come into that grade probably with a whoosh.
Some people will go away from New Zealand Cup week and they'll be thinking, okay, what was the highlight? What was the one race where you thought this was nothing short of breathtaking? And the one we're about to show you now was that. The unlucky recipient was, of course, Heisenberg, but they just don't come 4 wide round that last bend on Cup Day like this filly did, Amazing Dream, and win, Michael. As simple as that.
I would have given her no chance of winning in this fashion. I gave her a chance of winning the race, everybody did. But to come that wide, you know, she's only a baby, really, against hardened old campaigners like Heisenberg. I'm not sure Heisenberg mentally was dialed in last week, but it wouldn't have mattered. She was dramatically good. She had a week which is totally different to Spankum's week. Spankum had a week where he got beat and then things got worse. She had a week where her arch rival, Sweet On Me, may have been retired but is at least out for the season, and then she produces this. So she goes from being second and maybe clear second best filly in the country to absolutely dominant clear best filly in the country because of 2 different factors on the same day.
So the news came out that she was retired, but is that not actually definitive?
Well, look, she can't breed from her this season, so there's no reason to try to breed from her until next season. It's a long time between now and next October. I don't know. I haven't rung them about it. There's been so many different pieces on the chessboard moving around and going all over the place that she's been one of the forgotten ones. A little bit, you know, like this time of year, things which would be big news in a normal week aren't quite as big in news. But
it's just been every day, and this series, there's going to be stuff like this all the way through it.
Well, there's different storylines. There's going to be horses turning up in Auckland. Take, for example, Bella Montana. She was sensational at Alexander Park last week. Most weeks you go, wow, that was awesome. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And it'll matter a lot more in a couple of weeks'
I
time.
actually spoke to Barry
when she races in the Queen of
late
Hearts.
Friday, and I said to him, he's really, really happy with it, but she'll probably need a run. Well, she was just awesome.
Even what Barry Purdon did last Friday with Wainui Creek.
2,500 winners.
2,500 domestic wins. Now, that's a huge deal. It's an epic deal. Most weeks it'd be a great thing to talk about. As it was like, oh, this was the race in between the Dominion and the free-for-all. So it's a hell of a thing to do. And he is the Hall of Fame trainer, and he is the Hall of Fame trainer. This was just another notch in the belt.
And she got a bit, to want to use your word, discombobulated around that bend. She almost tripped and went into a gallop, but then balanced up beautifully by Zach Butcher, who then balanced himself up, got in the car, got on the plane, and got to drive the other very good mare in Bella Montana. So,
well, that's a rare double. He's driven Bella Montana to beat this horse by a nose in a Group 1 last year. Now he's driving both of them. I know who he'll be sticking with. He'll be sticking with Bella Montana, so there'll be a nice drive there for someone. I would presume
it's Scott Phelan.
Phelan. And it's going to be really interesting. These two mares versus Princess Tiffany. We're hearing that Mark and Natalie have 16 to come to the north. I actually haven't asked them about Princess Tiffany. I haven't seen her at all. But she's going to need to come back with the real rush as Princess Tiffany to be able to beat both of Barry's. So that's going to be interesting.
Especially at home.
The Queen of Hearts, the Group 1 for the mares, is on the same night as the Inter-Dominion final, December the 14th. Most of these mares will run through the Breeders, which is the week before on the Friday. But yeah, they now have a tactical advantage and a fitness advantage over Princess Tiffany if in fact she's going to turn up.
Okay, just before we leave Cup Carnival 2019, last thoughts, what's the lasting impression you'll take away from Addington Raceway?
I loved it. It was awesome. I think the Tab did a good job of driving turn up. Addington and Riccarton and even the Hounds, which I went to, they did a great job. So everybody's holding up their end. What I want on my wish list is I want guaranteed flight down or back so we can get 6 to 8 of those intermediate grade northern horses there to drive turnover. Wainui Creek added to that race by being there. 888 added to its race. We have a few more in those races. Turnover goes up a bit more, and I don't see any reason not to move the Dominion, and I can't think there's any possible way someone could convince me there's a good reason to, when the best trainers in the country would be more likely to race in both races if we moved it. That's on my wish list, Greg, but that's nitpicking. I thought overall, a fantastic week. What would you like to see done differently?
Yeah, basically the same. I love the week. It's a privilege to be able to be part of the broadcasting team, and I think some of the stuff that was produced, aerial shots and that, were just out of this world, and it gives us an ability to articulate in areas that we wouldn't be able to sometimes, how difficult it is to come from behind and make ground on a horse running home in 55.
It's a good way of doing it.
I love that aspect of it, so I hope you enjoyed it at home. We're about to take a quick break here, having wrapped up the carnival. When we come back, we'll have a look ahead at what's coming forward with harness racing over the remainder of the week. The home straight in your box seat. Let's have a look at these Inter-Dominion markets and get this man's opinion on where you should place your wedge. Cruz Bromac, 18s into 380 now. Ultimate Sniper off the back of his junior free-for-all win, $5. Chase Auckland off the back of his free-for-all win, $5. The Australian Bling It on, the Victoria Cup winner, $5.50. And of course he's been a Hunter Cup winner before too. The Fixer gets the drifts out to 7s. San Carlo halves his price, $9. And Colt 31, who's a serious racehorse, no question, $13 would be a pretty good price for him, and you could argue Classy Brigade's 15 would be as well.
Yeah, so basically at this stage, and things are changing daily, they're all coming, which is good. They're all going to be there. San Carlo, just some stable information for you. San Carlo's going to stay at Barry Purdon's with Beck Bartley. She'll be training him out of there, and that will give him horses to work with and give Beck, somewhere to get to the races, but someone who knows the routine, which will be really advantageous. Actually, Mark Caller's going to be there too. Habibi Inter's staying there. Here's a good story. Paul Neal wanted to go stay there. He rings Barry Purdon and says, you don't have an open class trotter, I might leave this with you. The forwards then ring Barry Purdon and say, do you want Mark Caller? Paul rings me back and says, well, they're two stallions, I can't have them on the same property because my horse hates other stallions. He waits, thinks about it for 3 hours, he rings you back and says, oh, I think it'll be fine, I'm going to start Barry's. There's every chance for the national trot. Barry Purdon might be training Mark Caller and Habibi Inter because Paul may not stay up, he might go to Westport. But so that's what's happening with the pacing market. I can't tip you into one there, Greg. Here's the Trotters, and Mark Calder's back to favourite over Tough Monarch, Habibi Inter, McLovin we know starting. What I cannot fathom in my rather small head with a large nose is that Winterfell's $9 for the series.
Under double figures, yeah. Incredible,
Well,
isn't
if you want to back Winterfell, you should take your money outside and just give it to someone you hate. Just say to them, hey, I hate
someone you like, for
Here's
that matter.
$100. I was going to back Winterfell.
The two
Instead,
horses
you can
that
have it.
interest me there are both at Michelle Wallace's. Of course, Temporale's been on the beach there, and Massive Metro. So they're double-figure odds type horses that we know love Alexandra Park.
Yeah, 100% they do, and they're good staying types. One's won a Roe Cup, one's won a national trot. I'm not sure how Temporale's body's going to cop the series, but he's at home or close enough to home, and Tony Hurley, he's a big advantage. Looking at this list,
Monty Python's been a big short to Michael.
I'm not sure whether some of those horses towards the bottom of that list. Bordeaux's out, so he's gone. Dark Horse, I'm not sure it will turn up. Paramount King, maybe because it's close to home. I think the Trotters are very even, but I do think there's the 4 or 5 at the top after what happened we saw last week at Addington are going to dominate.
Right,
So-
here's the guts of what's going to happen.
Yeah, so the night before, next Thursday, there's a welcome function, and it's open to anybody. If you want to buy a ticket, you can go along and meet everybody. And
where's that at?
Guest speakers at the Ridges in town, in Auckland, for those who want to attend. Then we start racing. We go racing Friday night. There's going to be huge coverage here, and next week, Greg and I are going to preview on this show the heats and get really into the minutiae of it. I wanted to say that word to show you how smart I am. Then on December the 3rd, I can't
Does that
spell
show
it.
us? Minutiae, spell it.
I can't spell it. Then December the 3rd on a Tuesday, we go harness racing. That'll be cool. And then on the Friday, we go again. Then we all take a break. On the Sunday, starting at around 11:30, there is a brunch for the barrier draw.
Yep.
And there'll be the blessing of the colours by Father Brian Glasheen, for those who are of the faith. And then we roll into it. So we're going to have, obviously, yourself, myself, Craig's going to be there. Adam Hamilton's going to come in and out of the coverage at some stages. And Cassie Fahey, who did a really good job for us last week in Christchurch, she'll be part of the coverage. Gareth Hall's coming across from Australia. And we're going to try and talk to all the Aussies and see what you do to go right-handed versus
Differently,
left-handed and all this sort of stuff. So we'll try and give you as much information as we can because, like us, you probably thought, God, Cup Week just finished.
Now we're into this, which is cool. It's really cool. What about this week for you before we get into the Inter-Dominion series? And we're at the Manawa 2 for the second day for them. 5 o'clock start, $25,000 fast track insurance pick 6 there. And at the park the same, and a $5,000 bonus early quaddie. There's a whole lot of news around December as well with bonuses and that. We'll update you perhaps next week on that. 10 races in Invercargill Friday, starting at 3:33. And then we're at Geraldine for Cup Day there, $18,000, 4:08 the start time, and Nandolo's in there. And
Cup
so
looks
smoking
good.
by.
Cup looks a really strong race.
It's in
Well
there
done to
too,
them.
and it is the Timaru Cup with Fast Track Insurance and the Tyre General. They got a bonus in there too of $2,500 added to that stake, and that bonus early quaddie too on Sunday.
And interestingly, our Uncle Sam starts in a free-for-all he can win, the Bathurst Pacer, on Friday. Tony Hurley, he takes the reins. Maybe he's going to be on him and Star Galleria during the Inter-Dominion, so that'll be interesting.
All right, we've been getting our foal picks rocking into us, which has been great, and this is the latest of them. This one is a Art Major filly, half to one change. So it's worth a little bit of money, isn't it?
Does he leave lovely horses, Art Major? You know, so often
Beautiful body.
nice, big, upstanding type things. You had a foal down at your place this week.
Yeah, that's
No,
a
it's gonna
bizarre
happen.
story in itself, Michael.
You're driving past in the tractor and the bears had a foal and no one knew.
No one knew, and certainly not me, and I was supposed to have had a look out there, so there you go. I think we're going to call it Man Look, so no one steal that name, please. Woodland's winner was, of course, the South of the Waitaki race, which was a terrific contest. Graham Anderson, Matthew Williamson, and Spirit of Louis, who, of course, is by...
Spirit of St. Louis.
St. Louis by Sweet Lou. So, yeah, good on them.
Lovely little horse. I love this series, the Waitaki, South of the Waitaki series. It's cool. It's one of the things that really works about Cup Week, so well done to whoever came up with that idea.
All right, that's it. Done. Cup Week 2019 done and dusted, into Dominion 2019 about to kick in.
Yeah, they've still got some hospitality available for grand final. They've got a nice big screen at Alexandra Park, and it's really cool. So there's heaps of really cool things happening.
All right, we need some money, Michael.
It comes up close to the series, but we're going to make sure that...
We need some money, so what about tipping us a winner?
I've tipped like 5 losers in a row. I'm not going to tip any. You can back solid gold if you want to lose your money.
Yeah, I'm going with the Kippy Bones again because got us home at about 9 to 1.
It's the only friend you have.
Yes, it
Remember,
is.
Kippy Bones is
Very
your
much
mate.
So I've learnt tonight that you're not one anymore. Okay, let's move on. We will be here next Wednesday for your box seat. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you in 7 days' time.
Why are you keeping me at a distance? All that I'm asking for
It's
is
the Aussies,
forgiveness.
tough Monarch, McLovin, tough Monarch, McLovin, tough
Am I
Monarch.
talking to myself again? I keep on staring
2
up at the
Group 1s
ceiling,
and stunning.
waiting for you to give me some kind of reason. Are you even listening? Am I talking to myself again?
Cruz Bromek and Blair Orange win the New Zealand Cup. It's Cruz Bromek and he loved it. There's a win. Ultimate sniper, he smashed them.
Don't leave me here in the dark where it's hard.
The little grey there, overzealous, one of the nose.
Shed a light on me. If you love me, say so.
Jazzy Star holding on, Heisenberg dives, missed. Jazzy Star.
You know I can't live without you. I'm on my knees.
Party Brigade, he's coming now. Chase Auckland, Addington erupts. Chase Auckland wins.
If you love me, say so. You never answer. I try to talk, you keep on dancing. I can feel you on my skin, but am I only dancing with the wind? And I know you don't owe me your love.